Everybody. What I want to speak about today is Hebrews 11 and verse 1, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And that you can reach your potential and I can reach my potential. And it is not dependent upon us and our own abilities, although God gives us creativity and God does bless us with talents. But did you know that through the faith in the cross of the Christ, through the finished work of the cross, that you can become anything and everything that Christ wants you to become? And that this verse is so important, that faith is that substance of things hoped for. And when you're hoping for something, it is so in your mind, and it is a living hope. And it says that faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And that faith comes alive like it's the evidence of things not seen, that you've already grasped it in your spirit as though you had it. Now, when I learned to drive last year, I'd already failed 6 times. And because I went deaf in my left ear when I was a child through measles and couldn't wear a hearing aid, I'd never been able to pass. And I'd had countless tests, always made up excuses to the examiner when I failed or the driving instructor, because in those days you never told them the truth, that you couldn't hear properly. You had to hide it, and because you knew they wouldn't take you out on the road. But with the new instructor I had, he had a very quiet car and he found ways around this disability. It was amazing. And so I decided that I was going to stand on that verse, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things not seen. And I would drive in my lessons, and I thought, I'm going to be able to do this against the odds. And so when I was in my lessons and I went past the Peugeot dealer, I said, there is my Peugeot car. I am going to have a 108, a purple car when I pass. And faith is a substance of things hoped for. And I have that hope in my mind because I have that faith. And I have that evidence in my spirit that that car is going to be mine. And so against all odds, against all my life, trying to learn to drive, knowing I couldn't pass being deaf, in the end, the Lord got me past my fears. He got me being able to do what I couldn't do in my natural self. And so what happened was that I launched out. I launched out in God to believe. And so when I did pass, it took me 8 months of lessons. And when I did pass, I actually got that Peugeot. And that Peugeot I'd seen online with the number plate. I'd actually seen it online with the number plate, and it came from another part of the country, and it came down to my local dealers, and I actually had that car. So I want to encourage you that faith is a substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things not seen. And what you achieve and what you receive is not based on what you think of yourself or what you think you might achieve, but based on the word of God. I remember when I lived in a very bad area, and I had a little daughter, and my daughter had a disability. She's partially sighted. She has actually done amazingly well and went to grammar school and achieved in many, many ways. Absolutely wonderful. But when she was young, I needed a better house. I was in a bedsit. And this bedsit was absolutely terrible. In fact, a blind man had lived in there. It was filthy. And I had to sleep on a put you up on the floor when I was pregnant. And when she was born, I didn't have a cot. And I had to believe God for a cot because I was so poor. And a church gave me a lovely white cot that looked new. And so I was launching out in faith, believing that God would supply my needs. And I knew that I needed a house. And so I claimed it from the Lord. Lord, I'm believing for a new house, that my faith is a substance of things hoped for, and I see it in my mind. I'm not going to settle for a flat because of my daughter's eyes. I need a house, and I'm going to believe for it. And I saw a borough councillor. There were loads and loads of people there. I don't know how many there were. There must have been at least 50 of us. And when I saw this borough councillor, he happened to have a child who had a disability, who was very, very disabled in a wheelchair. And it was a different sort of disability. But I explained to him my dilemma, that for the safety of my child and her upbringing, I needed a house. And in those times with the borough council, you only ever, I think it was one person a year, and they were given 300 points, I think it was, on either social or economic reasons or something like this. And but anyway, there had to be a valid reason why you could jump the point system and be awarded what you needed. And in housing, and in my case, it was a bigger house. It was a house instead of a little tiny bedsit. And I was that one person that was awarded that 300 points. Only one person could be awarded it, and I was awarded it. And so I remember that somebody from the council came into my little bedsit where the wet washing was drying, and we had absolutely nothing. I was as poor as could be, and the Lord had opened it up. You're going to have a house. And I thought I'd won the pools. It was amazing. And so faith is a substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence of things not seen. Now, of course, because when I was younger and going deaf when I was 6, it meant that I remember my mother saying that Gwyneth is the weaker one of the twin. And so I was brought up believing that I was the weaker one. My sister was always given the responsibility. And so I never really grew and became strong, knowing that I was capable of achieving and doing things. And in those days, disability was treated very much more different than nowadays. And so as I started to grow up and as I started to enter into all that God had got for me, and when I was studying, I remember that we had to give a presentation when I went back to learning in a GCSE English. And everybody else seemed so, oh, we've got this sewn up. We know what we're going to say, and we've really got it all together. And I've been very confident all throughout. And suddenly I started stuttering. And that old way of thinking and being from school, when I was ridiculed and made to stand up, and when I couldn't answer the Shakespeare questions, it all seemed to come back. And I stood up, and it was horrendous. And I was up. I couldn't get the words out. And I had to launch out into God that faith is a substance of things hoped for. And I want this GCSE. I need it, Lord. I need it, Lord, to go on to the next stage. And so I had to trust in God, and I stopped stammering, and I brought forth my talk. I said my talk, which was on to do with special needs in education. And I got an A grade at the end of that year. And so I learned once more that faith is a substance of things hoped for. I'd seen it in my mind. And even though there was ways that I stumbled along, I stumbled along the way, but I knew that I could grasp this. I knew that by the power of God and the word of God, that is a living word of God. And so I want to encourage you today. It doesn't matter what your age is. I've still got goals in my life. I've got dreams and visions the Lord has given me, that he gave me. And if God has given you those visions and dreams, and they've been confirmed through the word of God, or somebody else has maybe confirmed it in your life, you can step out into it, and God will open those doors. Behold, I have set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. And so what I'm going to say to you today is, just like every time I get into my Peugeot car, and I receive the evidence of things not seen. And every morning I see it in my driveway. And that is the evidence of things not seen. And you have that faith too. Won't you launch out today? Won't you be everything that Christ has called you to be? He doesn't call us to stagnate. In fact, we don't stagnate. We either go forwards or we go backwards. We either become bitter or we become better. And so let your life today become better. And may my life become better. I want to reach more goals that Christ has got for me, not what I want to do for my own success, but so that I can bless others and I can be an inspiration. And won't you be an inspiration too today? So I'm going to leave that with you. Yeah, let's all be inspired to be everything that Christ has called us to be. As a man thinks, so he is. As a man thinks, think according to the word of God and walk in the word of God. And you definitely will be blessed. You'll be blessed through your life. And that is through the good and the bad, by the way. It doesn't mean you'll have an easy ride, trust me. But you will be honed. You will be honed through the bad and the good. So, yeah, have a great day, everybody. And I'm going to speak to you later. Bye.